In this video, we're going to look at using the light sensor on the NXT to detect a line, and then we are going to use that sensor in order to direct some of our locomotion. So let's take a look at a simple task that we can do in order to take advantage of the light sensor. So the way that we have the light sensor built on the taskbot is that it's pointing straight down. So this is usually the configuration you use when you are trying to do some sort of line detection or following a line. And this is a very common task for a robot, particularly when you want to do something like a maze or you're trying to bound where the robot's going to be. So here's the task that we're going to lay out. We are going to move forward, continually looking for a black line using the light sensor. Then we are going to react if we ever see a black line. We are going to play a tone and then we will back up to the left and then continue, okay, so that you can see the loop structure. So in this way, all we've really done is we've created a simple program to just be trapped inside of a box. So this is a trapped inside of a box program. Okay, so that's all we're going to do. So let's take a look at how we would do this. So go ahead and fire up your LEGO Mindstorms software, and what you'll see immediately is that I have created a box. Okay, so all I did was I just took a piece of paper and I printed out a black box on a black rectangle. And so I printed out 10 of them and I made this box right here, and then you can see kind of the relative size to the taskbot. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a program and it'll drive along. When it sees the line, it will back up, go forward, and it will continually be stuck within this box. Okay, so let's go ahead and fire up a program called Trapped, and I'll go ahead and say go. So of course we're always going to start in a loop structure, so we're going to do this indefinitely, and then we're going to use a switch to control the sensor, or to dictate how we react to the sensor would be more accurate. So go ahead and click on the switch and come down here and go ahead and let's choose the light sensor. And our light sensor, if you recall, is on port 2. Now, what's interesting, or what's important to notice about the light sensor, is that it's got a transmitter and a receiver. So it's going to output light and then look at how much of that light was reflected back for this application. So you have to generate light. So you actually have a button on here that says generate light. That is a little bit different from the application where you're pointing the light sensor up into the air and you're trying to calculate ambient light. When you point it straight down and you're trying to find the difference between colors, you want to have the generate light box on. It's also a really good idea to create a course that has a really high contrast. So I notice I have white paper and black in a black line. So that's the best contrast you can have. It might not necessarily work as good as if I was on kind of a brown surface with a black line, but we can actually kind of do a calibration, which I'll show you after we get going here. Okay, so that's the task before us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the switch, and I've got it configured for light sensor and the 2. And what I want to do is basically it just has a threshold here of when you are detecting something. So if it's above this particular threshold, then it will do something. And what's kind of nice about the way that this defaults is that if you come up here, you can see that it's going to take this path in the switch when it's light and this path in the switch when it's dark. So it kind of defaults into a very usable state. So let's first set up what we're going to do when it is light, meaning that we are not detecting a line. And I click on the move box, and I'm going to slow this down a little bit just because I'm driving on paper and the taskbot is actually strong enough to move around the course. So I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to go about I don't know, let's go really slow. Let's do 40. Yeah, 40 is fine. And remember, we're going to go unlimited, which allows it to have a very smooth motion and continually check whether or not it's seen the line. And that's all we're really going to do in there. Remember, our left and right B and C are appropriate right here. They're set the way we have them wired, and we're ready to go. So now what I'm going to do is, to just get started, to make sure I know that this is working, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy and paste my move, and I'm going to put it in the path of the dark route through the switch. And what I'm going to do is, instead of doing anything, I'm going to go ahead and program it to stop. And I also want to play a sound. So let's go ahead and get our sound in there, and we'll stop first and then we'll play the sound. So the sound, I'm going to do a tone, and let's make it a high pitch just because, and we'll play it for 1 second. Okay, so now this is it, and I should be able to download this, and I'll go ahead and turn on my taskbot. Okay, so I've got my taskbot connected. I'm going to download. And at this point, we've downloaded quite a few programs on here, so you gotta actually pay attention to which one you're loading. So I'm gonna go under here and make sure I got trapped one. And notice that this is should just go forward and then stop when it sees a line and play a tone. So this should show me that the sensor is working. So I'll go ahead and hit play. It goes along. And it worked. Okay, that first time, one of the things that happens is if it's going too fast, it can actually blow right by. It can blow right by the line. It will detect it, play the tone, but it's already moved through it. So like if I push this, I'll push it through here. So the idea would be that it went too fast and it went past the line, and then it's outside of the box. Okay, so it's working. This is great. And it seems to be relatively responsive, so I think I got it. One really interesting thing is that look at the bottom of the light sensor. Notice that red light is on, so that's how it's actually generating the light, and then it monitors whether that wavelength of light was reflected or absorbed by the surface. Okay, so we almost got it, really. We stopped, we played a tone. Now all I want to do is I want to back up slightly. So let me grab a copy of this move block, and this is really my last one. So I want to just look at this. I want to say home. On my keypad to center the workspace, and I'm going to click on this, and I want to go backwards. And what was our original project definition? We want to go backwards and to the left. So let's go back here. And I want to go backwards and to the left. And let's do kind of a sharp one. And we don't want it unlimited. We want to do it for a second. So I don't know, maybe 2 seconds. So let's just see how this works. We might have trapped our taskbot inside of here. So let's go ahead and download. And let's see how well this works. So we're going nice and slow. Detects it, backs up to the left, perfect. And we have now trapped our taskbot inside of this maze. Not even a maze, inside of this box. Now this is pretty neat, because you could imagine doing things such as creating a challenge to say, search this field for an object. And this is one way to keep the taskbot inside of the field, and as it looks for the object. And you think, well, Jesus, this isn't very effective the way that we program this, and sometimes you just don't care, because you can just let the robot run indefinitely, and eventually it'll kind of detect whatever's in there. And so we have done it. We have trapped our taskbot in here. More importantly, we learned how to use the light sensor, and that was great. Okay, so the last thing I want to say is, one of the things that happens with the light sensor is sometimes the contrast of the light, of the black and the light, or whatever you're trying to detect, is not, it doesn't have enough contrast, said another way. So you can actually come in here and you can calibrate the sensor. So let me show you how to do this. Calibrate the sensor, and I want to calibrate the light sensor, and I tell it what port it's on, port 2, and then I calibrate it. And so you obviously have to be connected. So let me connect that baby up, and I say okay. So now I'm on light sensor. Yes, it's on port 2. I want to calibrate it. So here's what it's going to do. I basically just calibrated there. Let's see here. Okay, and I guess that's all you do. All right, so there you have it. I think there's something more involved in this. You have to have it over, there's a procedure that you have to have this over like a light and a dark, so I think I put it over the light, and let's just see with it on there. I'm gonna leave it on there, and what I'm gonna see is, notice that down here in the bottom left of this, I'm getting a value of 6.9. So I'm gonna come over here, and then I go over the black, and it goes down. Let's just see if that calibration worked or if it needed to be over the black. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Oh, geez. Sorry about that. It was actually prompting me for some information. So, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go Tools, Calibrate Sensor. I think I just screwed the whole thing up. So let me just do this. I'm going to go Tools, Calibrate Sensors, and it says Light Sensor, and I'm going to say Port 2 Calibrate. Now, here is what I have. It is going to tell me on the taskbar here, calibrating light sensors, minimum value. Okay, and the minimum value, you can kind of, if you put it over the black area, you see that it goes down, and that has to do with that the light is being absorbed. And then once you're squarely over the darkest color that you're going to do, you go ahead and hit enter on there, and then the max value, you move it over to the light, and mine went up to like 700, so that's the maximum absorption of your light, and you say enter again, and it says calibration done. Okay, so yeah, I remember that, sorry about that. So I'm going to close that, and let's go ahead and let's go back to downloading our program, and let's just verify that I haven't messed anything up. So I want to go back to trapped 1 and run. Perfect. Now I had the contrast of this course is set up so so distinctly that you're not going to have an issue with the light sensor. However, if you're doing this on a course that doesn't have the contrast, you would want to calibrate and try to make sure you dial it in. Okay, that is it. So at this point, I'll go ahead and stop our taskbot, and it's just leave it trapped in there. And I want to look at where we are at, and we have now accomplished 4 small check marks there. So that means we are done with the sensors. And if you think about what we did, we looked at how you use sensors. We even looked at the push button sensor. We looked at how to use the switch construct. We looked how you could put that into loops, and we looked at the adding some sensors to our taskbot. We added the ultrasonic sensor. We added the light sensor. And then we looked at how we could use the ultrasonic sensor to detect and avoid objects. We looked at how we could use the line sensor, or the light sensor, to detect a line, and how we could use that to actually perform a particular program which could autonomously remain trapped within a box. Now, it wasn't very much autonomy, so that's what we're going to look at next. We're going to look at what does it mean to be autonomous, what kind of programs are commonly associated with autonomy, with robotic autonomy, and what kind of, age-appropriate challenges can we create. So that is what we will cover next.